Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us this evening. We'll begin our program with a special message from one of our media partners.
Welcome to the 11th Power of the Purse event brought to you by the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Tonight, this event is dedicated to you and I, women in journalism. My name is Liliana Salgado, multimedia journalist for Noticias Univision Arizona. It is my pleasure to open up this event that will be led by some of the best in the field. Tonight, let's talk about the things that directly impact us, women in this business. Things like the pay gap between us and our male counterparts, for example. Did you know that over the past 15 years, this specific problem has remained stable in the United States? In 2020, women earned 84% of what men earned. It would take women an extra 42 days of work to make what men did during that year. And yes, I have my source. This is based on an analysis by the Pew Research Center. But that is only one of many topics we can discuss tonight. Let's talk about how women are uniquely positioned to deliver news. How has motherhood shaped your storytelling in a unique way or affected it if that's the case? What are the challenges women face in the industry for the sole reason of being a mom? Has that shaped the decisions you've made in your career or the length you decided to stay in the industry? What about women being promoted to leadership roles? Or how about sexism in the newsroom? Have you ever felt like your brains were questioned because of your looks? Have viewers criticized you on your outfit and your hair instead of focusing on the news you've delivered? Before we begin, let's not forget the devastation happening in Ukraine as we speak. Remember, journalists do not run away from conflict situations. We run to it in order to cover it. Tonight, let's talk about the brave and fearless women covering the war. And we don't have to look too far. Just in our backyard in Mexico, we have seen how fatal it is to defend the freedom of the press. With this, let's start off our conversation.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome six-time Emmy Award-winning journalist and a self-professed weather fanatic. She is passionate about storytelling. She's also fascinated with the challenge of television news relevance, connecting with people, and the ever-evolving world of new media. Please welcome our MC for today from ABC 15, Kaylee O'Kelly.
I love that British accent. Isn't it beautiful? Very nice. He knew I was going to say that. Can I give a round of applause to you for being here? I mean, how beautiful is this backdrop, right? I mean, I'm obsessed with it. I've already posted so many pictures on my social media feed. It's great. We're going to get to a hashtag in a moment here because we're going to invite a lot of people from all over the world who are going to be joining us virtually. But first, I just want to say thank you and welcome to the 11th annual Power of the Purse event. It's brought to you, of course, by the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Chamber, we do want to thank our very generous sponsors going all out for this event tonight. You're going to love what you're going to hear tonight. And I guarantee when you walk away, you will be inspired. So, of course, we began with our title sponsors, the Desert Botanical Garden and Freeport McMoran. Yes, round of applause there. Our bronze sponsor, Cox Communications. And did everybody get a swag bag, by the way? Yeah? Okay, aren't they cool? And those are brought to us by Avum Systems, a woman-owned business. And we want to say thank you to Roxanne Montoya for those great bags. I'm going to be loving that, right? They're insulated. They're great. The caterer today, everybody get a bite to eat. I mean, by the way, if you've never been to her spot, which is at 7th and Hatcher, it's right near my hood, you have to go. And it's a place called 15 Salsas. So we definitely want to thank Elizabeth from there for your spectacular appetizers. The guac is out of this world. And her place is just great. Again, it's right at 7th Avenue in Hatcher. Okay, so let's give another round of applause for our sponsors here. And I know you all know this, and it's so important, but our theme this year is women in journalism, which is so relevant. And before we get started, we do want to ask that you please let the world know that you're here, because we've got so many people watching us virtually right now. We started streaming about 30 minutes ago, and we've seen people joining us on the web since then. So we want to make sure that you're tweeting, you're posting, you're sharing. You could snap, maybe, I love this. Tap Morse code if you want to go way back, right? Use smoke signals. Do whatever you can to get people involved and watching online, whatever it takes to join the Power of the Purse virtually. And here is the hashtag you want to use. It's hashtag Power of the Purse 22. So by a round of hands here, show of hands, who's been here in the past to this event? Okay, so a lot of you. And you know that usually we see hundreds of people here for this event. Obviously, because of the pandemic, we had to really limit the list to about 150 people this year. And we are so grateful you are here. We're all in just a time of transition. And I was visiting with Monica in the back room earlier. We were talking about this. And the nice thing about this, I think we just all need to give ourselves some grace. We've all been through a lot. Isn't it nice to be outside and looking at each other and taking the mask off and feeling healthy again? At work, I work at ABC 15, and to be able, the last couple of days, see each other's smiles. I mean, we've missed out on that for a long time. And one of the things that, Monica, you reminded me of is, we're coming out of something. And I think if we all get in that mindset, we're going to just feel better about where we are. And that is hugely important. So we want to thank those of you who are here again in person, and those of you who are watching from maybe your office, your home, or listening in your car. We certainly appreciate that. So there are still far too few women in leadership roles, Latina women in leadership roles as well. And we're celebrating that today. And many of our Latina-owned businesses are fighting just to stay in business. I mean, we see the help wanted signs. It's hard to get people to come to work. It's hard to generate money. And that is where we all need to step up for each other to make sure we stay in business. And we also know that this organization, the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, of course, is proud to make this conference happen every single year. It's about networking, it's about celebrating each other, and it's about keeping each other in business and keeping our state alive and afloat. And when we think that way, other people think that way, and the giving is contagious. So to those of you who have celebrated here in the past, you know the Power of the Purse, again, has this Women in Journalism theme this year, but we're going to focus on the challenges that women face in this ever-changing industry. You're going to hear the good, you're going to hear the bad, you're going to hear the ugly, but you're going to understand to get a great perspective of what's happening right now. The changes can be tough, but I believe collectively we know that these changes are for the better. It's exciting. I get chills talking about it, I really do. So again, the goal of this year's event is to share how journalists do help to share more diverse and more inclusive stories to better serve our communities. And here to lay that out for us today will be an incredible keynote speaker, someone I adore, someone I just have loved getting to know. And you're just an incredible person. We'll get to that in a minute. I too am, I was asked to share a couple of words about my experience as a reporter. I started back in 1999 in Yuma, Arizona. And I thought, well, what the heck am I doing here? I was a producer, a weekend producer. And I was asked to do the weather. And I said, do you want me to do the weather? Well, yeah, until somebody else can get here. Anyway, went on to get my meteorology degree. And I've loved my journey as now a host, an anchor. I was at CBS Dallas, done a couple of things at the network. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mom. And as I was thinking through this, what I am is just a person. And that's what we are as journalists. We are to reflect the people who join us every single day, because we're not there for us to dress up and, throw on the lashes and all that. We're there for the people of this community. And so often I think that gets lost in translation. But the people you're going to hear from today are going to share with you, how the struggle is real, but it doesn't have to be negative. It's something that we can turn into a positive as long as we, tap in and remember. You think about the women again and the men, but the people who are covering what's happening with the Ukraine conflict. It's not easy, but we didn't get it for it to be easy. So as always, this conference spotlights the rewards and struggles and the role of Latinas and other women in business. And if you don't already know, and we've been so lucky at ABC 15 to have Monica come in and share this information with us, the latest annual Datos report shows that our state is home to an estimated 125,000 Hispanic-owned businesses. Can we give a round of applause for that? A majority of which, about 68,000, are owned by Latinas. In fact, here and across the country, Hispanic women, entrepreneurs, are the single fastest growing segment of new business owners, right? That is huge. So as women influence all areas of business, you need to know that in journalism, a percentage of white and male workers in newsrooms was higher than in that of all the U.S. workforce. That's according to the Pew Research Center. Women are general managers of just 17% of the nation's AM/FM stations, according to Mentoring Inspiring Women in Radio. Female students, we continue to outnumber male students in journalism programs and colleges across the country and across the world. So you know what we're saying, right? We're coming up. We're going to do this together. Even as overall enrollment did go down, according to an Association for Education Journalism and Mass Communication Commission survey. So now, without further ado, we do want to bring up, ladies and gentlemen, to the stage, Dr. William Husing, the Executive Director, Ken Schutz.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. So how about that view? It doesn't get any better than this. I was a little worried for you this afternoon. It got toasty, too toasty for early March for our business, but it's cooled off just perfectly. So my name is Ken Schutz, and I am the Executive Director of the Desert Botanical Garden. And we're so pleased that you're here tonight on this beautiful day. And I hope on the way in you had time and had a chance to see the Chihuly art. It'll be lit, and it's beautiful daytime or nighttime. I actually prefer it at night. So as you leave, it's all around what we call the core trail, which is one big circle. So once you hit bricks, you can go left or right, and you'll wind up where you started and see everything. And do go off the trail one time into Dorrance Hall. That's inside a building, and it is set up more like a museum, versus our garden installations. And some of the most exquisite glass that I think Chihuly's ever created is in there. It's too fragile to be outside, but if you do have time tonight, go see it. And if not, please come back and take a look at it. You'll be glad you did. It's here through June 16th. Things get really toasty around May 15th, so I wouldn't wait until the last minute, but this spring, if you can come see it, I think you'll be very pleased. So I'm glad you're here. Monica and I sort of reviewed our history together. It was 2 years ago, I believe on March 14th, that Power of the Purse was held here, and the garden closed to the public on March 20th. So we got it in just under the wire. So 2 years ago, we did it in person. Pardon me. Last year, we did it virtually. And tonight, we're not co-presenting. We're happy to be the venue and a presenting sponsor in this hybrid presentation. So in person, virtually, hybrid, and hopefully next year, back to normal. In person again with many more people. That's our hope. Everyone is celebrating the reduction in mask wearing. Today is actually a big day at the garden. We've been open, we reopened, I mentioned we closed in March. We reopened in July of 2020 and have always put safety first, but have been able to provide the trail experience for everyone, first with masks, then without masks. But today is the first day that every public space, including the restaurant, the gift shop, the butterfly pavilion, join that maskless repertoire for not only our guests, but also for our staff members. So they officially demasked this morning, and we're loving it. Now, to keep everyone safe, yeah. And for those staff members here, I think that applause is also for the 2 years of dedication that you all put in to keep the plants healthy and this institution healthy. Thank you. So, as I said, we're proud to be your partners. Today marks the 6th annual partnership, 6 times that we've been involved with this. I think it just keeps getting better and better. We're so proud that you select us as the venue for you to gather as you do each year. And I think in spite of COVID, our relationship, the things we do, it's not one day a year. Now it's really expanded to several events and points of contact throughout the year that we work together with the Chamber, host events here, co-plan programs sometimes, seek your expertise, your knowledge, your insight into how we can better serve every part of our community. And it's a really wonderful relationship that I know will go on for forever, I hope, but many, many years to come. So this is the sixth annual, as I said, and we appreciate you choosing us as a venue. I also appreciate these few minutes at the podium where I have time to tell you about the Garden's mission and its service to the community. And I promise to be brief, but I got 80 years to cover, so I'm going to go fast. So that's the first thing I wanted to share with you. We are more than 80 years old. We started in 1939. And back then, when only 50,000 people lived in Phoenix, conservationists were alarmed that population growth was so out of hand that the desert was disappearing. And I lived downtown in the Willow District, which was developed in the 1930s. And when I walk my dogs in the morning, I cross streets named palm, oak, cypress, and there's another tree down there. Anybody help me? No, see, that's my point. They didn't. They pulled out the native plants and put the stuff they liked from back east in, and they renamed the streets. Or when they named streets, it wasn't in honor of native desert plants. It was of their favorite plants from back home. So early conservationists were alarmed, one man and one woman, that soon the desert would disappear. So back in 1939, this 150 acres was set aside as a sanctuary for desert plants. Those two folks and all of their friends were well ahead of their time in understanding growth and the need for conservation. So we started as a conservation garden, and that's who we are today as well, in addition to being also a very popular and successful cultural attraction that aims to serve every member of our community, but also serves as we act as business people sometime too. We have a top line and a bottom line and deliver value. And when we make profits, we don't distribute them to shareholders. We reinvest them in the community, in the mission of the organization. So the business model is the same. The proceeds go elsewhere. But we think as you do, as business people, and we're proud to be part of the economic engine of Phoenix and Arizona that really drives tourism, that drives so many other parts of the business sector. But we keep that in balance with our mission and the need to conserve native plants. And the way we reconcile those two is in this sanctuary of 150 acres, there are more than 50,000 plants. Most of them are cacti or agave, but we also have desert trees, the Palo Verde and others, and succulents from around the world. Our primary goal in conservation is we know that there are 4,000 known types of cactus. They're called taxa, so not species. Like dogs are a species, and a Chihuahua and a Great Dane are taxa. So they're the same species, but they look a lot different. So in the cactus world, there are 4,000 different looking cactus. Our goal someday is to have 100% of those taxa, at least a couple of every known taxa or type of cactus and agave in the world, in the collection, in this institution, either in the ground or in a conservatory, also in the seed bank, and also represented in our herbarium, which is preserved plant specimens, which is very useful for research. And if you ever watch one of the Jurassic Park movies, you know that maybe someday DNA will be extracted from species that are extinct and maybe reintroduced back into the world. I hope it goes better here than it did in Jurassic Park, but we are a DNA library. So in addition to being a cultural institution and part of the economic engine, in addition to conservation, we also have a very strong education role. And from preschool to PhDs and everywhere in between, we have programs that are community-focused, desert-focused, and when we get back to normal post-COVID, many tens of thousands of participants in those various programs, one way or another, teaching about the beauty and the wonder of the desert and how to conserve it. And then the last thing I want to share about our mission and why we're here, I think is implicit, but I want to make it explicit. We belong to the community. We were created by a land grant from the state to our not-for-profit. We can operate this garden in perpetuity as long as we operate as a public garden. And the social contract in that deal is, by making public land available to the garden, our responsibility is to serve the public as fully and completely as we can. And we haven't been successful in doing that, especially in the complete part. And we still have a long way to go, but I am proud of the progress that we have made, and we're very, very dedicated to, just as we grow the number of species and the diversity of our plant collection, we also grow the number of communities that we authentically serve and reach 100% of service to everyone. Now, not everybody from every demographic likes plants, so I don't know that we're ever going to win over the zoo folks, but in some ways, they're probably nature lovers too and like plants and animals. But everybody who has an interest in conservation and in wildlife, in desert plants, we want to not only feel welcome here, but have complete accessibility to come here and to provide an authentic experience for every visitor on their terms. So we are a place of beauty, solace, rest, and there's not one language that doesn't have words for those, and not one mind that doesn't need those attributes from its garden. And that really explains who we are and who we strive to be. So thank you again for coming tonight. Thank you for letting us be your partner. And do see Chihuly. It's really cool. If you can't do it tonight, come on back. Thank you.
So nice for, I think, all of us, those of us who've lived here for quite some time too. You learn about the history, right? Helps make Arizona even better. So thank you, Ken. That was excellent information. And we certainly want to thank you for this beautiful setting. Just watching this sunset just reminds you of how lucky we are to live here in paradise. So as I prepare to introduce our next speaker, a reminder, because I'm sure many of you have taken pictures of this gorgeous backdrop, we just want to make sure you are sharing your experience here today via hashtag #PowerOfThePurse22. Don't be shy, be social, right? So next up, we have the president of the Freeport-McMoRan Foundation and director of community development, Tracy Bain.
Everyone, I'm Tracy Bain, Director of Social Responsibility at Freeport-McMoRan. It's an honor to be connecting with you virtually. So many brilliant and talented women who are leading change in their communities. Each year, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the Latina Business Enterprises Group accelerate the growth of minority and women-owned businesses across Arizona. And Freeport-McMoRan couldn't be prouder to be a chamber member and a continued supporter of this one-of-a-kind event highlighting women business leaders, journalists, and entrepreneurs in our community. If you don't already know Freeport, we're a leading international mining company based right here in Phoenix, Arizona. And the minerals we produce, copper, molybdenum, and cobalt, are part of a supply chain that fuels our modern society. We operate around the globe, from Safford, Arizona, to Silver City, New Mexico, to Arequipa, Peru. But our operations are rooted in local communities, where the people we employ, the suppliers we choose, and the organizations we partner with are integral to the success and the development of those local communities. We're committed to developing and investing in efforts that increase education and economic opportunities for all. In particular, we want to ensure that women have relevant and meaningful opportunities to attain greater and equal levels of economic prosperity. We'll be hearing from some successful entrepreneurs later in today's program. But if you know someone who might have considered starting a small business, we invite you to learn more about our Dream Builder program at dreambuilder.org. This program is empowering women entrepreneurs through online entrepreneurship training. Dream Builder was created in partnership with Thunderbird School of Global Management and offers a series of online courses that teach you the skills and give you the knowledge to start and grow your own small business. It also includes a standalone Access to Capital course entitled Financing Your Dream that guides you through the process of seeking capital to fund your business. These courses are interactive, self-paced, accessible at any time and available in Spanish and English. Students who complete the courses receive a ready-made business plan as well as a capital action plan, and best of all, these courses are completely free. As of today, there are nearly 125,000 women from over 100 countries enrolled. Our mission through Dream Builder is to help women convert dreams into enterprises that enrich families and communities, and we encourage you to learn more at dreambuilder.org. Congratulations and thank you to the Hispanic Chamber for providing critical supports to so many and for highlighting the inspiring work and contributions brought to our communities by women across the state. Congratulations on the 11th annual Power of the Purse, and we look forward to being together with you all again in the future. Thank you.
I literally was laying on my floor one night, staring at the ceiling fan go around in a circle, and I thought, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't know, this is too much stress. I can't do it. And then I just got up and I did it.
We had no idea what we were doing.
I was just at a point where I needed to start something.
I just decided I can do this.
My kids were starting school, so they didn't need me.
I finally said, well, what am I gonna do now?
And I started talking to people about this idea.
I made my list. I was in a marketing class, bounced ideas off of tons of people, and I had a business
Idea of like ready-to-cook ingredients. Nobody knew what I was talking about.
If you have that vision, if it's stuck in your head.
When I first had the idea
of creation and art,
and it was so clear and so vivid.
I knew I wanted a legit business.
We can like do this.
Love what you're doing. I love it.
really loved how visuals can tell stories.
I love to clean.
I would love to build something. I would love to make something.
I would probably do it even for free.
We're just two people that dream big, stay focused.
You need to believe in yourself so your clients believe in you.
From the beginning, I believed that we could win.
What are you passionate about?
Have passion for what it is you're going to be doing.
Being an entrepreneur is all about the art of getting somebody to say yes.
You can be the leader of this.
So I might as well really push hard
to go for it.
You can do it.
I always bring my A game.
If we're gonna do it, just do it now.
For me, it was no turning back.
Now the wheels start turning.
I have a plan.
Almost immediately, people started buying the products. Strangers started buying them.
I wake up every day and I'm so excited to go to work.
When you start seeing results, you're like, oh, what else can we do?
What else can we do?
I love my business. I love helping people. This is my favorite thing ever.
Is that awesome or what? I have to tell you just a quick personal story here. As a patented inventor, I built this live streaming technology, which you will all be seeing probably here within the next 6 months. It was an idea, just like these people are talking about. And then you get this patent and you think, oh, what do I do now? That's what this Dream Builder program is all about. It's so important. And then this is how we change the world, right? Together. This is awesome. So on behalf of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we would like to thank our Los Amigos partners who support us all year long with their corporate investment. And it's just so great to hear more about the Dream Builder program from Tracy Bain. So we want to thank her. And Tracy, I think you're watching at home. I actually know her personally. The Chamber thanks you, for sure, appreciates all your support every year. So it is time to introduce one of my favorite people. I was really sad when you left ABC 15 because you added so much spice to the team and so much integrity and so much credibility. I always have loved your stories and knowing you before you were on air. I just adore you. And you guys are going to love her too. So please, let's welcome Liliana Soto, Assistant Professor of Practice and Assistant Director, Bilingual Journalism Program, University of Arizona School of Journalism. Liliana is an award-winning journalist and a freelance bilingual multimedia journalist, 10 years of experience in broadcast news in English and Spanish, with a specialization in bilingual investigative journalism, immigration, the U.S.-Mexico border, Latino issues, marginalized communities, and Mexican-centric Latin culture. Can we please give her a round of applause?
Kaylee's gonna make me cry before I forgot to bring my tissue, so I might need someone to run over here and bring me something. So So yeah, thank you, Kaylee. Hola a todas, hello everyone, y a todos too. Sorry guys, I kind of wrote everything meant for women because we are celebrating women. So for the men here, it's just today is not your day, but it's okay. Don't feel bad. But I really want to start with something serious. You know, I want to highlight the important work that reporters are doing right now, women in journalism are doing right now in Ukraine, and let's not forget Afghanistan, Yemen, Mexico, all over the world. Yes, yes. We're thinking about you all, we're praying for you, and we thank you for your bravery reporting on important issues. And so, I think one of the first things that I want to say is, and I know this word may be like a curse word for some people, but I learned to embrace it. The women reporting right now, you know, out in a war zone, they're mujeres chingonas, right? Yes. They're mujeres chingonas, like the many women that are right now here today, you know, women with power and resilient. We all have a story, a different story, and we all have survived many different things in our life. And so I really want to take this opportunity to thank someone that it's a woman in journalism that is really important to me personally. She wasn't expecting for me to say this, but Kaylee, I really want to thank you. And I don't think I ever said this to you, but you made a huge difference in my life and also in my journalistic career. And you'll find out later why. I promise I'm not gonna cry. But in order for all of you to understand too, you know, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Thank you. See, that I do love it. So, you know, and let me explain to you a little bit about my life and, you know, what it took for me to be here with you today as a journalism professor and a multimedia journalist. So my name is Liliana Soto. I'm an immigrant from Sonora, Mexico. Yes, super close to Arizona. I came to this country when I was 17. I was pregnant with my daughter, Andrea. I was 7 months pregnant when I got here to the US. I didn't know any English. I was in a really, really bad situation, in a bad relationship with a boyfriend. I didn't know any English either. Yet, you know, I became an award-winning journalist in both English and Spanish news, and now also a journalism professor at the University of Arizona. Go Wildcats, but don't tell them I'm a Sun Devil. But the journey hasn't been easy, though. You know, still up to this day, I still face some struggles. And I think the most important struggle that I face is the imposter syndrome. But I think it's been mostly women who have helped me to succeed during my life and who have also paved the way for me. It's been also simple acts of kindness from women who have, like, they honestly changed my life. And I think that has led me to believe that when we women believe in each other and we lift each other up, we can create positive outcomes. And to understand who I am, I need to take you back to my childhood and the impact my parents had in my life. So I grew up in both Caborca and a small town called Pitiquito. It's a little tiny town in Sonora. And so this is about 6 hours away from here, from Phoenix. We're super close to Rocky Point, where a lot of you probably go. And so we grew up really poor. Our first home was built by my dad. My dad says that he used to get in his bicycle from Caborca to Pitiquito and drive, you know, in his bicycle for like an hour, carrying all the construction materials with my mom by his side until they built that first home. But growing up poor taught me a lot. My dad was an immigrant from Guatemala, living undocumented in Mexico. And he was living there undocumented, even though he was paying monthly fees to immigration, even though he was married to a Mexican citizen and that he had 3 Mexican-born children. Even with all of that, the government in Mexico still was making it really hard for him to fix his immigration status. And I think that story sounds familiar to the situation and the policies that we have here in the US as well. And so I think back then, and I didn't know, right? Because I just grew up with it, knowing all the immigration issues my family faced. But I think that's when my passion for journalism that is focused on immigration started. But I think it was my mom who really sparked that in me. My dad was able to fix his immigration status because of my mother. So she wrote a letter. She knew the Presidente of Mexico was coming to my hometown, Presidente Fox. You guys remember him with the boots? So he was coming to my hometown, and my mom said, you know what? I'm going to write a letter, and I'm going to go to him, and I'm going to explain what's going on with my family. And so I honestly don't know how she did it. But somehow she just broke into the security that he had, and she got to be right in front of him. I mean, you know, Mexican moms. Oh my gosh. Yes. So she got to be right in front of the Presidente of Mexico with the boots and all. And then she gave him the letter and explained, you know, what was happening to the family. And that's it. You know, she made it happen. My dad was granted Mexican citizenship after that. The process got faster. So, you know, it all happened with my mom. It's just that tenacity of this woman, you know, that is just so admirable. And my mom, she's just like, she's a fearless woman. You know, who's going to go to the president? I mean, I wouldn't even like try. I don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know, because I have my mom's DNA, maybe. But she just got there and made it happen. And my mother was doing all of this, you know, trying to figure out everything with immigration, while also studying nursing full-time with 3 children. And then, if that wasn't enough for this woman, she then went to law school, finished her law degree, became a lawyer with 4 children. She was raising 4 children while doing this. You know, I think being born and being the oldest daughter of this amazing, smart woman, and then I had this hardworking immigrant father, I had a lot of pressure on me. I knew there were really high expectations of me. Education was always, you know, in the back of my mind. You have to go to school, you have to go to school, and you have to make us proud, and everything that we're doing, you know, we hear that sermon all the time from our parents. So when I got pregnant at 17, in my senior year in high school, I couldn't face them. Tenía vergüenza, I mean, everything, you know. I ran away. I ran away from home, the only place I knew, with my boyfriend, an abusive boyfriend, to the US. And I arrived to this little tiny town in California, in Central Coast, California, Lompoc, California. I learned so much about myself there. The town is beautiful. It's called the Town of Flowers. They're known for their wine. The ocean is super close. And that's where my baby daughter was born. I think I only had 2 months in Lompoc when my mom found me. And I was hiding. I left. Back then there was no social media at all, so I couldn't post anything. So I left. No one knew where I was. And suddenly I opened the door at the apartment where I was hiding in Lompoc, and my mom is there. And so she's like, let's go back home. You're going back home, and you know, we forgive you, everything is okay. You have to go back to college. We're gonna help you with the baby. And I said, nope, I refuse to go back. And I remember telling her, I wanna face my own destiny, Mom. But in reality, I didn't wanna shame them. You know, I'm from a little town. I didn't want all the vecinas mitoteras. I didn't want them to be gossiping, you know, about the pregnant daughter with the bright future who now sits at home with the baby waiting for her parents' allowance. I didn't want that for them. I think society can be so cruel to teen moms. Somehow they make us believe we're only a statistic, that we are destined to failure. It took me a while to learn that I create my own destiny, that I have that power. I never told my mom what I was actually going through in Lompoc, that when she showed up at the apartment, how bad I wanted her to just take me back home. I couldn't do it. I didn't want my daughter to be their responsibility. When she finally accepted my decision, I'm not going back home, Mom. Her last words were, okay, it's fine. Just please, Lily, please, don't get married. Not to him. I did follow that advice. Thank you, Mom. I want to believe that I fooled my mom that day, but she now says that I wasn't okay. But that she also knew she had to let me go so that I could figure out my life on my own. I have a daughter now. She's 19, and I can, every weekend I gotta see her. So I honestly, as a mother, I don't know how she did it, leaving your child behind knowing that she's not doing okay. Still, my parents will always check on me. Every Sunday, they would call me, ask me how I was doing. And still to this day, my papa still calls every Sunday, even though I'm 37 years old. But every time they would call when I was in Lompoc, and they would ask how I was doing, I would lie. I would say I was fine, that I love Lompoc. The ocean is so close, it's so pretty, there are so many flowers. I didn't want them to know that I didn't have any money, not even 50 cents. I remember when I was pregnant, I craved so much buying those chocolate bars. I couldn't even buy one of those. I couldn't tell my parents that the only pair of shoes I had were the ones they bought me in high school. There was these blue Skechers, really cool ones. They last me for like 3 years. There I took care of my shoes. I couldn't tell them that my boyfriend was abusing me while pregnant, physically and mentally. That I felt trapped at that apartment where they left me, voiceless, afraid and alone in a country I did not know. And that really I just wanted to go back home. But somehow I found this strength within myself. I think it was my daughter. But just as my mom, I found a way to make it happen. If I was hungry, I would go to the food bank called the Pantry in Lompoc. And even if the food was expired, I would still eat it. No car, no problem. There were a lot of grocery carts everywhere, and they're free. And then you can park them anywhere too. I didn't need a driver's license, I didn't need gas. It was perfect, right? For clothing, there was this alley in downtown Lompoc. They had this secondhand store there. And in the night, people will go and drop off bags of clothes so that the store could sell them, later. I found out that if you go around midnight, then you get to pick up all the best stuff right before it makes it to the rack. When I was searching for clothes, I remember I was just thinking, wow, I appreciate my parents so much. You learn to appreciate them rather quickly. My pregnancy was really different. It's the only one that I had, but I never bought maternity clothes. I don't know what that feels like. I also never bought baby clothes for my baby. But Andrea, I got to wear the cutest outfits ever. And that's because of a woman that I met randomly in Lompoc. She was from Colombia, I remember, and she was bilingual. And she told me about this place, a nonprofit organization where they help you with donated clothes for your baby. I don't remember asking her for help, but she lent me a hand. It was an act of kindness that changed my life, my daughter's life. The only gift my baby got when I was at the hospital actually came from that nonprofit organization. So for whoever is running a nonprofit organization here, thank you. You guys do make a difference. You know those baby car seats that it's mandatory for, when you are released from the hospital with your baby, you have to leave with one of those? My daughter had a blue one. It came from an alley. My landlord, she found it. She was super excited. She found it, she washed it, and she gave it to me. I was so thankful. I have some of the best and most awful memories from Lompoc, but I chose to concentrate on the positive outcomes. I believe Lompoc was the foundation of who I am today. It gave me En español se dice las raíces inquebrantables. You know, those hardcore roots that no one can break. Andrea was 9 months when I decided to leave Lompoc. My parents convinced me to move here to Phoenix with my uncles, and I'm really glad that I listened to them. Phoenix helped me to get my first job. I left my boyfriend for good. At some point, I remember working as a single mom. I had 3 jobs. I was a waitress at this Mexican restaurant near Metro Center. I landed a job as a supervisor for a data entry place in call center. My English was really broken, and I was making phone calls in English. And then I also got a job as a bartender, but I feel bad for whoever tasted my drinks. They were awful. That job didn't last long. I learned to hustle here in Phoenix. I learned to navigate family court on my own without knowing English. I was able to win my daughter's custody. And this is thank you to the guidance of, again, another nonprofit organization here in Phoenix that they help women with legal services for free. They still, up to today, they still are doing that. I also learned the importance of education. I remember, though, when I first showed interest in journalism, a friend told me, and you know, periodismo is journalism, right? And that journalism is an English major, and that you don't speak English. What makes you think you can go to journalism school? I mean, no offense. Don't you love when they say no offense, but they're like totally trying to offend you? Like that makes them better, right? The words did hurt a little. But then I was like, well, I guess I gotta prove you wrong. So, little did I know was that not knowing English was like the list of my worries to go to journalism school. The biggest barrier I faced was called Proposition 300. My roommate and I enrolled full-time in a community college. We went together, and then we got the invoice together. And when we were comparing, hers wasn't that much, and mine was significantly higher. So knowing me, if you know me, I like to fight sometimes. So then I went to the cashier, and I was arguing about the differences in the amount. Why is mine higher? And that's when it hit me. You guys are not the same. You know, people like me from Mexico without a social security couldn't pay the same as my friend born in the US because a bill was signed into law called Proposition 300. Everything sounded so complicated. You know, I just wanted to go to school, and I was like, I'm ready to drop my classes and give up. When suddenly, a Latina woman comes out of nowhere, and she calls me and invites me into her office. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm in trouble. She is mad because I was yelling at the cashier. And she then started talking to me about the DREAM Act and what being a dreamer was. We started looking into, my situation and the DREAM Act, and we both realized that I wasn't a dreamer, that even if the DREAM Act passed back then, I wasn't going to qualify. I was heartbroken. And again, I was like, oh my gosh, why it has to be so complicated? And she's like, okay, well, what we can do, what if we sign you up for 6 credits? Technically, that makes you part-time. And then in the summer, we can take other 6 credits. So then you'll be taking 12 credits, and that makes you full-time. And like that, you avoid paying the out-of-state tuition. I was like, oh, I don't know what that means, but okay, I'll do it. Yes, fine, let's do it. And she's like, yeah, but it's gonna take you longer. It's gonna be a lot of work. Summers, you're not gonna have any summers. Like, it's fine, right? But now that I think about it, it's because of her that I was able to enroll in school, because I was ready to leave. And she didn't have to do that. I didn't even know she was listening. But it made a difference in my life. I think she is the reason why now, years later, one of the women that helped me, I'm here standing in front of you as a journalist, with education, as a professor of journalism, as someone that graduated from one of the best journalism schools in the country, magna cum laude, someone with 9 Emmys so far, a national award, talking to you in English, and as a US citizen. That woman worked at Phoenix College. I never got to see her again. But she helped me more than she will ever know. And as I'm talking, I'm thinking, life is hard. It's not easy. And I know we all have faced struggles, or some of us are still facing them. But as an immigrant, it's really hard. And I know I'm very fortunate because as we speak, there are a lot of immigrant kids right now who can now still go to college still, whose only dream is to be able to take 12 credits and be a full-time student, who are not asking for a free pass just to be able to go to school. Once I made it to my dream school, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism, I faced the harsh reality. I wasn't at Phoenix College anymore, where most of my peers were students of color. I think there were probably a handful of people that looked like me, that sounded like me, and had my background. If you ask me about how many professors, probably less than 5, maybe. Still, I thrived and I learned the best from the best. Until one day, a professor advised me that it was better for me after graduation to aim for Spanish news because of my accent. My accent, this person said, makes it difficult to understand. I was a great student, great GPA. I never missed class or a deadline. But after that talk, I became very self-conscious about how I sounded. I remember I would get so nervous, almost fearful to voice my stories. I knew I wanted to be a journalist. I knew I had the talent, but I was told to limit myself. I admired this professor, so I believed this person meant good, and I followed that advice. I worked really hard and became a reporter and news anchor in Spanish news. And yes, I won multiple awards. But after all my achievements, management presented me with a 2-year contract renewal with not even a penny as a raise. Journalists working in Spanish news make way less than journalists working in English news. And journalists working in Spanish news have to do double the work because they have to constantly be translating from English to Spanish. Reporters and anchors, some reporters and anchors, they fear to not get renewed. So getting a renewal for me, it was supposed to be great news. But everything changes when it doesn't come with a fair compensation. So I decided to walk away from news. And leaving news wasn't easy at all. In a way, I feel like I lost part of my identity. It was really weird. I think it took me over a month to just get out of bed. I was depressed, didn't know what to do. I was afraid that I wasn't gonna do anything next, And then me not working just didn't feel right. But then I had the opportunity to cross over to English news. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. This whole time, I made myself believe that without Spanish news, my journalism career was over. And here it was, knocking on my door. But it's really hard to let go of the imposter syndrome. So I took an off-air position, even though I had so much experience as an on-air talent. Truth is, I was still very self-conscious about my accent because someone I admire in college told me I couldn't do it. I truly believed my accent was my weakness, and I was so wrong. It is my strength. It's what makes me, me. When I first started working in English news, I don't think the station knew what they were getting. I was hired to do logistics, and then I turned into a trailblazer. I became the first multimedia journalist to report in English and in Spanish for that station, to create their first website in Spanish for news. I won the first Emmy for the station in bilingual work for reporting and investigative reporting. We made history. I gave a voice to a community that is usually underrepresented in English news. I portrayed the Latino community and the immigrant community with dignity and respect. My hard work helped to build my own beat. I became a news leader, an expert in immigration and Latino issues. But I wasn't getting any credit publicly at first. My stories had someone else's voice in English. And I was afraid to ask. And to be honest with you, I felt less than, because again, my accent. By little, getting no recognition started bothering me. And not because of my ego, because it was me who was doing all the hard work. The stories about my community, words in Spanish, were being told by someone else, in someone else's voice. I remember going to a friend's office at work, crying. As he's listening to me, the superwoman, she passes by, and he calls her in. Of course she's gonna go in. She knew who I was, but she didn't know me personally. And I remember, and I don't know, Kaylee, if you remember, but you told me, you're like, Lily, you're gorgeous, you're talented. What's stopping you? Your accent? Everyone has an accent. You were hired for a reason. Believe in yourself. I know you're gonna do big things. And she offered me to coach me, and then she hugged me. And I wish that professor in college would have said the things she said to me, because it made a difference. Later on, my stories had my voice. Coaching lessons with an expert helped me not to get rid of my accent, but to gain my confidence back, my voice back. It wasn't easy though. I faced people in the newsroom telling me that I needed to sound standard American. Not that you're not standard, I was told. And I remember thinking, what? I was so confused. And honestly, I mean, it took a lot of guts to deal with it. Emotionally, it was draining, you know, to be in, I don't know, am I not American? Am I not standard? What's going on, you know? But I think my biggest motivation to get me through all was the immigrant kids that will be watching the news. Because, you know, that's what the first thing we watch because we want to learn English. So we watch English news. I wanted them to see themselves reflected on television, thinking, I can be like her. She sounds like me. She looks like me. There's a place for me there. If she did it, so can I. But I think it also helps that I have my mom's DNA, the DNA of a fighter. But the fight is far from over. How many main news anchors do we have that are Latinas in Phoenix? How many Latinas do we have in investigative units? How many news directors, managers do we have that are women of color? And the importance about representation goes beyond the newsroom. It starts at our journalism schools. It wasn't easy either to become a journalism professor at a university. But I have a strong group of journalist women supporting me, guiding me every step of the way, fighting for me. So to you all, mujeres chingonas, sorry guys, I'm not including you here. We gotta fight for each other. And yes, I know we have made progress. We have some managers and some news directors, producers who are women of color or women. But we are losing a lot of women of color in this industry every day. We are losing critical voices for our communities. We still got a lot of work to do. Women are leading, like we mentioned before, at graduation levels and journalism schools, yet we still are seeing more men dominating, the industry and newsrooms today. Why is that? I'm the only Mexican journalism professor at my school, and we're located less than an hour from the border. Why is that? Some universities have never had a woman of color leading their journalism school. Why is that? We must speak out. And I know we are afraid. I hear this all the time. You don't want to burn any bridges, Lily. But we are strong. And we can build our own bridges, guys. I know we can. Gracias.
Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that story, because if those stories don't get told, it won't change. So thank you. Whew. Yeah, really. Inspired. That feels like such an understatement to say that. That was just awesome. Was craving more. So if you haven't seen her TED Talk, you will feel even more inspired, as if you couldn't, right? I mean, that was just awesome. So thank you. Check her out. You're a rock star. Okay. We are going now to turn to our panel discussion for more inspiration. And our expert panel today will be moderated by Emeritus AZHCC, also known as the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here, Board of Directors and Chief Program and Community Engagement Officer at Arizona Community Foundation, Lisa Urias. We want to welcome you. And of course, round of applause, along with a powerhouse panel. I'd like to introduce, we will begin with Vanessa Ruiz. She is the Associate Vice President for Outreach Partnership within Educational Research and Student Services at Arizona State University in her current role. She leads several teams creating a vision to develop and implement strategic partnerships with nonprofits, K through 12 schools, foundations, corporate partners, faith-based leaders, and other community stakeholders to advance the educational attainment and economic opportunity for underserved communities. Next, I would like to introduce Mary Rabago. She is the president and CEO of Mary Rabago Productions. As she comes up, as a Mexican immigrant, she did become an American citizen and television news anchor for Univision Arizona and Univision California, earning recognition as one of the top 10 Latina women in media. And finally, Elvia Diaz. She serves as a columnist and editorial board member of the Arizona Republic. I always love her work. She has more than 20 years of print, radio, and online journalism experience in English and Spanish, providing a strong voice in the Latino community. Welcome, everybody. Lisa, excuse me, my voice cracked like a 12-year-old boy. Take it away.
So I want to encourage all of you, if you need to stand up, take a little minute, that's fine. If you need water, please feel free to do that. This is such an incredible night. Lily, what a beautiful story. It was so inspiring to hear your voice and the experiences that you've been through. And these women are incredible. And I'm also very honored to be here with all of them. So we're going to get right to it. And we're going to leave some time for questions. So please feel free to ask questions, to think about what kind of questions you'd like to ask them. What an incredible time in journalism for this world. And, you know, here we just heard from Lily, and I would just love to ask each of you, what do you think is important about being a Latina in the world of journalism? What perspective do you think you offer as a journalist, as a woman, as a Latina? Vanessa, let's start with you.
Thank you, Lisa. How do you follow that up? Again, thank you, Lily, for that. You and I need to grab some drinks and share some stories. So to answer your question, Lisa, why do I think that the voice of us as Latinas is so important? Well, first of all, look around, right? I think as journalists, part of the reason why, and this is my own perspective, but I hope it's shared, part of the reason why we decide to do this job, and I want to be clear, it's a job that requires blood, sweat, and tears. You have to have a passion for it. You have to love telling stories. You know, we run toward the fires. We don't run away from the fires. It is not an easy profession. But having said that, we also want to be representatives for all members of our communities. Because if we don't tell the stories of our communities with respect, with dignity, with a deeper understanding of the issues and the topics that matter to our communities, then who will?
Absolutely.
Nobody else is going to do it for us in that same way. So it is a huge responsibility, but I think it's a responsibility that we take on with a lot of pride.
And Mary, you think
Mari.
you think that perspective is important?
You know, I echo Vanessa's words, but there were two that really resonated with me. And I think we saw it in Lily, you know, Keynote speak right now. Storytelling and passion. To be a journalist, you have to have that, because what you don't see behind what happens behind the cameras, behind the pen, you know, the computer, it's what we face as professionals. And it's a constant fight to provide a service to our community. And I believe you both will share with me that one of the most important things to do is credibility. Don't lose it. Even when you transition to the other side, the dark side, when you're not in traditional journalism, having the credibility, having the trust of the community. And that responsibility, I remember driving home. I had long drives from Univision all the way to Baca every night, and always question it. Did I do enough today? Did it matter? One of the slogans for my company is journalism with a purpose, because I felt I used that through my 20 years of career before I resigned to my previous job in Univision. And my purpose was always that with one information, whatever I was sharing that day, I could change somebody's life. I could bring resources that my family didn't have as an immigrant, 9 kids, not speaking the language, being undocumented, not knowing where to go for resources, and all the nightmares that we experience as a family. So to me, that was my purpose, and sitting in that chair in front of the camera every day.
Yeah, so important. Absolutely. Mari, thank you. And Elvia, I know we all read you faithfully, and I know I do. And I talk about fierce, right? I mean, there's someone who's out there every day in the mainstream media, in the Spanish media, doing all this incredible work. Why is your voice important as a Latina?
Bueno, antes que nada, muchísimas gracias. Es un honor para mí compartir este ratito con ustedes. And I know you had been sitting there for a long, long time, so hopefully you'll get a chance to ask questions. Like Lily and others here, I'm an immigrant. I was born and raised in Mexico. Again, same story, same immigrant story that you heard before. My story is a little bit different in journalism because I was determined that I wanted to write in English. So I began in Spanish, and before I came to Arizona, I worked in California, Oregon, New Mexico, and then here. So in New Mexico, if you know anything about the state, it's predominantly Latinos, right? So I came here, worked for the Albuquerque Journal, came here, and I immediately became the Mexican reporter. Not necessarily to my work, but to readers, and immediately, you know, I covered politics, local politics. Immediately I started getting all those emails, you know, the beaner, the greasy Mexican, that go back to Mexico, that all the stuff that you have heard before. So this was 20 years ago. I thought it was bad. Fast forward to today.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
nothing.
we thought it
That
was
was
nothing.
absolutely
That was
nothing.
nothing, yeah.
Nothing.
That was preparation.
Yeah, that was preparation. So, well, let me begin with a former president, you know, who deemed us as enemy of the people by we, the journalists. So why is it important? I believe it is important for any journalist whatsoever, you know, to provide relevant information. Now, if you are a Latina, you have that perspective, the immigrant perspective that you have, the Mexican perspective that I have. Every one of you has a story to tell. Absolutely every one of you. So why do we care to have that perspective? Because it's our lives, right? We reflect the community. We reflect you, your voice. And in my case, all readers, right? So white, brown, Latinos, what have you. So at one point, it got so bad here in Arizona. You were talking about Proposition 300. So that was 10 years ago, a huge anti-immigrant sentiment, lots of legislative bills. And I was covering the legislature at the time, and things were really bad for reporters back then as well. So people around the country offered me jobs, you know, like, get the hell out of Arizona, what are you doing there? And so my response then, and it's my response now, people don't want me here. They really don't. So this is where I'm gonna stay.
Yes.
Stubborn.
Well, and I think that's important to note that, you know, for as many voices as you might have throwing mud, there are millions of others who really do value the perspective that you bring and the work that you do. And you do know that as well.
We're here. We didn't go anywhere.
We
We're
just
still here.
transition.
We're still here, fighting the fight, I think, in different and new ways. It's so interesting to hear Elvia share a part of her journey, Lily as well, and to see so many commonalities between our stories and some of the challenges that we've had to face by making a commitment to staying here in Arizona. People ask me the same question, why are you here? Why are you here? Why do you stay? It's been tough at times, really tough. And I always say, the work is here. The work is here.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, I mean, the perspective that I know we have all tried to bring over and over again is that this is, you know, a border state. I mean, Arizona was Mexico. We are here, many of us, for generations. I know my ancestry is previous to the United States.
When borders were created?
When borders were created.
Gotcha.
So, you know, that's an important perspective for us to bring too. When people say, why are you speaking Spanish? I always say, well, we're in Arizona, that's why. Because we're a border state. I mean, don't you think, Mari, that's an important perspective to provide to people too about, you know, the connectivity that we have.
It is so important, especially when you know that Mexico is the #1 partner to Arizona when it comes to commerce. How can you not speak the language or celebrate the language? And that's what I did the joke of Mari, because I do it all the time, and I'll tell you why. Because by being an immigrant, when I introduce myself or somebody comes and I have to approach somebody, I have to do my best to pronounce their name with my thick accent that gets thicker and thicker with the mic on. And as you can hear it, so I can relate to so many things, Lily. I remember emceeing the big galas here, which is how I met Monica Villalobos. I think it was the last gala I was part of. And I remember one of the first ones that I did, that they complained, a fancy sponsor for that complained about my accent. They couldn't. And as stubborn as we are Latinas, you know, when they would come, I said, well, there's opportunity for you to do it, but you don't have to do it. Oh no, I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna do it. And after doing hundreds of those events through, you know, a process of 20 years, I'm aging myself, but this is my 29th year in media. I resigned traditional media to my job when it was my 20th anniversary. So how can I tell you that it's not important for us to highlight who we are? In storytelling, I go back to storytelling, because if we don't start telling our own story, nobody will. I think that had resonated in each of our answers. Also, Lily said, and when I was listening to her keynote speaking right now, it resonated to me that beyond journalists, we're storytellers. But we have to tell the story with truth and not what is okay for the standard to understand, but in reality what's going on. I remember being one of the few thick accent reporters and anchors that would participate in KTAR when I would cover, issues in Mexico, the elections, Vicente Fox with the botas. That was the highlight of my life. It was the first live newscast that we did, December 1st, 2000. To me, was my highlight in many aspects. But I had the opportunity to participate. Crossover, I never was employed by a English market company, but I would participate, and they would allow me there, Channel 12 and KTR, with my accent.
See, I think that's the difference. I'm going to interrupt you because I think we as women, and I learned this a long time ago, they allowed me, they invited me, they were kind enough to let me in, right? And so the attitude should be different, right? I belong, I'll walk in, I belong here.
I totally understand the point of view, but if you're coming from an era that I became the first main anchor Latina, that I had to wait for my co-anchor male, and I don't know if you went through this, for them to greet, and I would have to be fighting almost every day with that news director. How come can we take turns? Why can I greet the newscast? Why do I have to follow?
Right.
And I think we have so much of those moments as women in journalism or when I went and asked for a raise and the general manager said, bring your finances, I'll help you balance and help you take better support of that. I said, I went to school for accounting, not really journalism, so trust me, I'm really good with money.
Yeah, I mean, here we are, and we just heard Lily's story, and all of you, and I know, I have experienced it in different ways in business, but even writing with the Republic at times, the backlash or the kind of responses that you get, whether it's opinion or your accent or the way we dress or the way that we behave or whatever it is. But how do you now, as professors, as mentors, as leaders, how do you encourage young women to participate in journalism? Why do they need to participate in this space? What is it that, you look at what they're facing. Elvia, I read your stories about what's happening with journalists in Mexico, what's happening with journalists all over the world. This is not a job for the faint of heart. How do you, well, you may believe it's glamorous. There's a lot to it.
It is not. If you want people asking you every single day and opening 1,000 emails, F you, greaser, journalism is it right now.
Yeah,
that's your career.
Yeah, my husband, when we got the first letter at home, he was like, whoa, Lisa, I don't know, this is a little scary.
One letter?
Just one, yeah, because I'm not a journalist. Because I'm not a journalist doing the daily, but just here and there. So yeah, tell us about your experiences and how do you tell people why this is such a critical profession to be in?
I appreciate that question, Lisa. I think I want to start off by saying one thing, and that is I think it's really important that we identify the difference between good journalism and media. Please. Because we hear so much, right, these days, especially about the media and fake news. And I have to tell you, that has been so damaging to an entire generation of up-and-coming reporters and journalists and producers who really have a passion for this profession, who care about our communities, who want to tell the stories of our communities, and who sacrifice. Because let me tell you, when you're starting off in this business, you're not making a lot of money. Okay, I know, and not only starting out, I know some folks mid-career who are driving Uber, right, in their spare time to try to make ends meet. I'm not exaggerating. So again, going back to my earlier statement about blood, sweat, and tears, sometimes that's really what it takes to keep going in this profession, so you have to love it. So, one, I am one of those people who really firmly believes that we need good journalism now more than ever to maintain our democracy. I know that sounds dramatic,
It's true.
but it's the truth. If we don't hold people accountable, what then? So that's when the good journalism comes into play. If we don't tell the real stories of our communities, of our comunidad, many different communities, not just the Latino community, then who will? How will things get better? How will things improve? How will we empower our communities with knowledge? So again, that's what I tell when I was, fully in my professor role at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, and I want to know who that professor was.
Uh-oh. Someone's about to
trouble.
text you. Somebody's in trouble.
And I'm not kidding about that. That's what I tell the students that I mentor, the students that I still keep in contact with after they've graduated and moved on to jobs, because it's the truth. We need them now more than ever.
And Elvia, tell us about that experience too of, seeing what's happening with your colleagues in Mexico, for example.
Well, let me pick up where you left up about what good journalism looks like. It is not glamorous. It's far from it. It's tedious work. It really is. Right now, this is a good example, I think, about what good journalism really is and how tedious it is. We at the Arizona Republic requested all communication from Cyber Ninjas. I don't know if you heard of that company. They are the ones who did the audit, the so-called audit of the Maricopa County ballots. We requested all the communication because, it's paid with taxpayers' money, right? Of course, they said no. We went to court. The judge ruled in our behalf and said, yes, that is public information. So they appealed that decision. Another judge ruled in our favor, said, no, that information is public record, and they appealed again. So the point is that we are in court still to get that information from the Cyber Ninja. So it has been months and months with us fighting behind the scenes with lawyers, spending a lot of money just for us to get that information so we can report it to you. That's how journalism looks like. The tedious work, the behind the scenes, holding people accountable. So to me, if it is taxpayers' money, we need to know how they're spending the money. That's holding them accountable. And that takes a lot of work.
It does. Holding truth to power.
There we go.
Yeah. And Mari, you've been able to pivot and create interesting opportunities with your business as a former journalist, but doing things, as you said, in a way that brings good to the community for that respect and mutual benefit.
Well, I think you guys can echo me that once a journalist, you're always a journalist, right? We were talking about the, what is the detox period that we go when we let go of the traditional media and all that. But I think two things that I learned throughout my career as a journalist was resilience, the importance of making a difference in everybody's life, believing in yourself, and opening doors for the other people. I think is very important. So I created my company out of the need that I saw that it was not representation where we can tell the story of the needs of our community, the basics. How do I tell this big nonprofit? How do I tell this big corporation how to communicate with a new type of immigrants? We're a complicated community. We have layers, right? The first generation. My house is the simplest explanation that I can give. My parents and I are pretty much think alike. When you talk to my siblings that were raised here, when they were, they arrived here when they were young, their mentality is totally different. The ones that were born here don't even start. And with my kids, that's another story, right? So when you say Latino marketing, it's not only speaking Spanish, it's knowing who or what Latinos you're talking to, how are you going to make the difference, and not only in journalism, as we see, we're celebrating women in journalism, but who makes the decisions at home? What kind of clothes they're going to wear, the kids, what health insurance they're going to use, how to handle the finances. My mom never worked, but my mom was the administradora, right? She
Never
still
worked outside the house.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. Never got paid and never had a job. She worked more than my dad in many times, but she would make the dollars como chicle. alcanzaban para todo, right? So when you bring that colloquialism to the storytelling, my goal, and it has been for 9 years now, is to become the bridge to the Latino buying power, where I not only have a duality. I don't only educate my community about products and services that can enhance their daily life. It's news you can use, as I call it. I still have the same passion and I storytell, to get the message across. But I also educate the general market, the corporations, the business, the organizations, nonprofits, about how to speak to us, how to serve us in our needs. And I think that is another way of journalism, and the way that we can reinvent ourselves as a journalist, because there's so many faces of journalism. Not only the hard news given all day, there's another way to do it, and always keeping your trustworthy. That trust of the community is gold. If I can tell you that I did something right, was the branding and building that trust with my community.
Absolutely. And any questions? If you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Is there a question back there, or can I see?
Lisa, I'd like to go back to something that Elvia said, which was we're sometimes used to, they allowed me, right? And you have to just say, no, I'm here. And I agree with you on that. I also think, however, it's important that we talk truthfully about the high price that one can pay for fighting that fight, and not waiting to be allowed, but saying, no, I'm here, and this is who I am, and this is what I represent. And again, always being that squeaky wheel that's raising the hand in the newsroom to say, this probably isn't the best way to cover this story, or maybe we need to rethink it that way. That also takes a toll.
Absolutely.
That takes a real emotional, mental toll. And you do have those moments of, gosh, is this worth it? And it is worth it. But I also think it's important that, to that point, we also talk about the importance of women, diverse women, Latina women, women of all shapes, colors, and sizes, to think about leadership positions. Absolutely. Because it's really in the leadership positions, I think, that we're going to start seeing real, sustainable, systemic change, not just in the journalism industry, but frankly, across industries all over. Because when you have that understanding and that real buy-in, that authentic support, then that's when I start to see it really trickle down top to bottom. So I think that's also an important point. And I believe in being honest with the young journalists. I never want to take away that passion and that desire and that sparkle in their eye. That is a beautiful thing to preserve. But you also have to be honest and tell the truth, because you don't want to sugarcoat it either.
Absolutely, yeah, I think that's so important. And I think it's important, one of the things that has been expressed here over and over again is, women supporting women in these roles. And I know listening to those young voices or to experienced voices and getting that perspective. Thank you for not saying no. Yes. Those of us who have more experience.
There's some things that we can celebrate. One of my interns, of the many ones I had when I was in Univision, Martha Mauer, which is now the news director for KTR, and it's a radio station that, the highlight of my year in that, in journalism, was when I started to be invited. And yes, you had to be allowed to get it. Not that I wasn't ready or wasn't wanting that, but you had to. Just like I had to fight for being able to greet, the public within the newscasts. And I think one of the things that we're missing to say, that as journalists, not only Latinas, we have to prove ourselves double in any newsroom. Not only because of that. Usually, the opportunities, at least in my years of journalism, was always done or given to men. I'm never going to forget that inauguration of the president with Las Botas, Vicente Fox, because it had to be my co-anchor that was transitioning to another market that finally decided to give me the opportunity in him, and he gave the biggest lesson to the people. Now, I am very faithful thinking that it's not what happens to you, it's what you make out of that. So that resilience that the newsroom taught me by trying to fight for the right thing, because I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it for the other journalists coming behind me. I didn't want them to be with that standard that because they were female, they were women, they could not have a lead position. I had 3 national awards. I had many Emmys, and that was not enough. It didn't matter at that time until the things that started changing and the community started recognizing. I think that's why it's so important for the community to be supportive of us too.
Yep, absolutely. I'm gonna.
22, right? Go ahead.
We have one. I'm going to ask one last question, and then if you don't have any questions, we're going to close it out. But we talked about this quite a bit about women being able to understand their value and being able to kind of work through, negotiation around their contracts, being able to, just, I used to always say, well, I went to the same schools, I did the same work, why am I not getting the same pay? Or, I've never had a problem with that. But Elvia, tell us what you think women need to be doing. I don't.
Well, that's a mistake I made, and I have to be honest about that. So you're right, Vanessa. I mean, it takes a toll on what we do, and we pay a heavy price, and we do, and one of them is to do all kinds of jobs for the same price. I did that many times in many years, right? Being a reporter, being an editor, being a photographer, being, in Spanish news, being in the community, being a translator and what have you. So yes, of course it is difficult, right? And of course there are moments when you don't do it, right? When you just said, well, I love what I'm doing and I'm making okay money. No issues here, right? But I forgot what the question was about to begin with. It's getting late.
Vanessa's going to pick it up and then tag back, and then she'll tag back.
You got it.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Women supporting women.
And men. I have to give a shout out to men as well. And the gentleman over there.
But I think we're harder among ourselves, women.
Well, we are, but I also think there are a couple of really important factors at play. And if you agree with me, let us know. So one, I think that as women and Latina women, a lot of times we're sort of raised in this way of just, mija, work hard, keep your head down, the work will speak for itself. And but no. Okay? I mean, there comes a point, and I'm going to be very honest, I had to make a decision to walk away. And that was probably the most difficult decision that I've ever had to make professionally up until this point, where I realized I'm not being valued. Not only am I not being valued, but I think they're they're not supporting me. I'm asking for what I know I bring to the table, and I'm getting crickets, and I'm being led on. So how could I, in good conscience, tell others to advocate for themselves in this process if I find myself feeling stuck and as if, again, I myself am not being valued? So I had to make that decision, and it is not easy. It is not easy. But the good news about that is that once you make that decision, man, a whole new world opens up. And so I really want to encourage for everybody who's here, and I'm sure this may sound familiar to my fellow journalists. We can do so much. We bring so much to the table. Our skill set, and I posted about this actually a few days ago on LinkedIn because it really resonated. The abilities that we bring as communicators, as deadline-driven people who get things done, we run towards the crisis, not away from the crisis. We become instant experts on many different subjects because we have to. Those skill sets is invaluable. And many different people see the importance of that.
So there's life after journalism?
There is a life after
and
journalism.
Life
and journalism
still
for all of you, for any of you who
But you have to know also when to walk away.
Yeah.
There's one point that we haven't talked, and it's really quick. The sacrifices that we as mothers make in the journalism world, I think is very important because most of us went through pregnancy, on air in many ways. Days that we were not there, holidays we were not there for the kids. So when you said that it's sweat, tears, and a lot of suffering, it is. It's a sacrifice we make in many ways, but it's our passion that drives us. So don't feel sorry for us. We made that decision to do it, but there's a lot of things that could change in the world of journalism when it comes to women. And I think it's important to speak about it.
Absolutely. Elia, did you have anything else?
I was just going to say that because we're about to close and we're talking about journalism and women in journalism, things are changing and changing very rapidly. All of you are journalists in a way. I consider myself a traditional journalist, meaning newspapers, social media, and what have you. But I encourage you to verify that information that you're reading. Before, when I came to the Republic, we actually printed a newspaper, and my objective was to be on A1, the front page, you will pick it up. A lot has changed. Everything is here. You have it at the tip of your fingers. And journalism is not the same thing as information. You have tons of information right here, right now, that you can use for your daily lives, for your entertainment, or what have you. But the technology has given us that, and that's fabulous. I love technology. I'm not as great as my daughter is using it, but I embrace it. It's wonderful, but it's also dangerous. It works against us, and it works to manipulate our emotions and the way that we buy, the way that we behave. So anyway, journalism is not necessarily the same thing as information. So please, be on the lookout for that. Look for trusted journalists, for trusted companies that you know. Look for information and use that information to your advantage, whatever you're doing, right? So anyway, this is beautiful. It's dangerous as well.
Yeah, I think that's the most important message for those of us who are not journalists to understand, is the incredible value that journalists bring to not just our country, not just our state, but to our world. And I think Kaylee or Lily, somebody said, think about the journalists now in Ukraine, think about the journalists now in Mexico. And many of them really do risk their lives to bring you and me the truth, to bring us the facts on the ground, to tell us the stories of what's happening with people. And it's such an incredibly noble profession to tell the truth, and to tell the truth faster to our communities. And I think it is such a wonderful to have all of you here, and Lily and Kaylee, all of you here with us tonight. And I just want to thank them and thank all of you for joining us tonight. But thank you so much for your good work. All right, I think we're going to close out. Are you going to close us out? All right.
We're going to give some stuff away. So this is exciting. That was awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. Some great perspective. Man, that mom stuff. Are you kidding me? We need capes. All of us. Well, okay, so we do have one last message from one of our journalism colleagues.
Hi, my name is Melissa Aguilar. I am a reporter and anchor with Telemundo Arizona here in Phoenix. I believe women shape news by being at the forefront of change. We are in an industry that is dominated by men, yet I believe we bring our own values and experiences to our job, and really in anything we do. At the end of the day, I don't think that it could ever be replaced or replicated. And I also believe that we leave behind our essence and our footprint in everything we do. Women are uniquely positioned to deliver the news because I believe that we offer a different representation. I like to think that when women who are outside of news look at us at a desk or while we're out in the field reporting and they dream to one day become a news anchor or a news reporter, they can dream big by seeing us in these positions, because I think at the end of the day, what we're doing is inspiring and motivating future generations. I think some of the challenges that women face in journalism are the perception of society. Women tend to be judged by their looks, and to a certain degree are sexualized by society rather than their ability to do the job. Also, statistics show that women tend to make less money than their counterparts. So I believe those are some of the challenges that women face. Hi, my name is Melissa Aguilar. I am a reporter.
Round of applause for her as well, right? Well, we are just a few moments away from concluding our formal program. Before we go, we are going to be closing out with a little fun. Everybody likes that, right? Especially on Thursday night. So we're going to give away a few prizes here. We are proud to announce that Ballet Arizona will be featuring the world premiere of their new production from May 5th to May 8th of this year, honoring the late and very talented Juan Gabriel, Mexican singer and songwriter, right? And the staff at the Hispanic Chamber has placed, wait for it, 2 items under chairs of 2 lucky attendees. So make sure you look here. We'll hear a squeal, or maybe not, I hope, under your seats. And if you found a sticker under your seat, you'll want to take it to the side of the stage and meet Elizabeth. She's here. I just sat with her. She's awesome. Here she comes. Anyone? Find a sticker? Okay, all right. If you have a number on your seat on the reverse side, if there's something written on the back of the ticket, maybe. Yeah, exactly. You snooze, you lose. Okay. Winner. Okay, so Elizabeth, you are right here. So come on over side stage, and she will take care of you. Okay, so we know we have people watching virtually as well. Don't think we forgot about you. We didn't do that. We have 2 tickets to the Phoenix Suns versus New York Knicks tomorrow night at Footprint Center. And Vrinda Mamundi from XN Solutions, congratulations to you. You're going to have a good time tomorrow night. We want to say congratulations to our winners. And with that, we are concluding this year's Power of the Purse event. I want to thank the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I feel so honored to have been part of this. Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much. I'm just walking away going, I know what I'm going to do next, right? And we also want to thank you for being part of this. Thanks to Desert Botanical Garden, Freeport McMoRan, Cox Communications, Avum Systems for being our sponsors. And really special gratitude goes out to the Chamber's Los Amigos corporate sponsors who sponsor and support the Chamber every single day of the year. So for those who are here at the Garden, we hope that you take advantage of this gorgeous evening to enjoy it and experience, obviously, the Del Chihuly in the Desert exhibit. It's so beautiful, and the Garden will be open for at least a few more minutes. Oh, are we going to? No, it closes now. Sorry. Womp womp. I lost track of time. I was having fun. All right. Have a great night, you guys, and thank you so much. You know Ken's back there going, what?
Human beings are in the exploring business. That's what we're good at. We enjoy